So I go out there and I'm coming down the ice. I remember it like yesterday, on the left side of the rink, and I'm coming down right-handed, I'm shooting, and I trip and fall, and I went full speed into the boards with my legs right in front of me, snapped my ankle in half in my skate.
So my first injury was during basketball season. I dove for a loose ball and I twisted my knee and kind of tried to walk it off and noticed something felt funny. So I went to the doctor, they did an MRI, and I had a torn meniscus. While I was in high school and shortly after, I had another 2 surgeries, so I always had prescriptions around. It was pretty readily available.
From the time he was probably, I would say, 8, 9 years old, he played baseball, basketball, then he got into football in high school. I just loved football. He played it for 2 years. In 2008, he got an injury. He fractured his ankle and pulled a hamstring. He went to the doctor, and of course, you know, like any doctor, they have to do something for the pain, so he thought, okay. I had no problem with it. At that time, I didn't know, you know, about opiates or anything like that. So I gave him medication, let him do it on his own. You know, he's 16 years old. The pills were running out very quickly. So he's, Mom, you know, I'm in pain, I need to go back to the doctor. I take him back to the doctor, of course. Doctor prescribes another prescription with no problem.
We know that teens and adolescents don't have fully formed brains, and so some of the control centers of the brain and some of the centers of the brain that help with thought and processing and also reward the idea of how high or how good you feel from a substance aren't fully formed in the brain, and exposures to substances, including alcohol, tobacco, but opioids as well, even though these are prescription medications, have the potential to lead a young adult towards higher rates of addiction later in life.
And the injuries that soccer had given me, you know, by the time I was in 8th grade, I was already prescribed to Vicodin. By the time I was a sophomore, I was being prescribed morphine, and you know, that eventually that chemical addiction just took over.
I played football and I wrestled, and I was a great football player, and I was a varsity football player by the time I was 16 years old, and I got an injury and the doctor prescribed me Vicodin. And as a result of being prescribed Vicodin, I picked up this addiction, and I was addicted to pills, and I was a kid.
Perception of risk was really low because it was prescribed by a doctor, so I didn't see any reason why I couldn't take it whenever I felt the need to take it.
Come to find out years down the road that those are the strongest pills that you could get, is basically heroin, you know what I mean? And I had no clue, and then it just felt great, and I thought, yo, the doctor's prescribing them to me, so what's wrong with it, you know what I mean? And then it just became a disaster, and just started selling my own stuff that I had. My sticks, I would tell the trainers that I needed new sticks, you know, $200 sticks, and then I would just go pawn them or sell them to somebody just to get pills. Anything I had to do to get them, because I couldn't go to practice. I couldn't even play. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even wake up unless I had the pills next to my bed.
Cody lived on the streets. He lived in abandoned buildings. He robbed drug dealers. He did everything he possibly could to get his hands on heroin. That morning, my husband found him. My son swallowed all the packets of heroin. Died instantly, according to what they're telling me. He ingested enough heroin, and take that bag, it was heroin and fentanyl. The fentanyl was enough to kill 15 people.
Yes, there was stuff I took. I took sleeping stuff, and I took pain stuff, and I took stuff just to get through things. Throughout my career, I broke my leg. I had 3 knee surgeries. I had 2 back surgeries, and then 4 or 5 concussions. And if there was stuff that you could take to make you get through it or feel better, I was not too afraid to do it or try it.
I enjoyed three years in the NFL, which is considered the average. 3 years. So I ended up getting hurt in my 3rd season. I tore my ACL, and I'll never forget when I realized that pain prescription, was a problem. And when I received my medication for the Vicodin, and 2 of my teammates asked me to come over if they could have some pills because they had some injuries. And my response was pretty much, well, you need to go see the trainer because I'm not a doctor and I'm not allowed to be doing this. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to be handing out prescription drugs. So.
We understand what it means to play, baseball every single day, and how quickly someone can become addicted to these drugs. Baseball inherently is an unnatural sport, overhand throwing and rotational, puts a lot of stress on the elbows, shoulders, joints, hips, knees. One wrong injury, one shoulder surgery, one elbow surgery, all of a sudden, Oxycontin and Vicodin, and you're hooked and you could be out of baseball.
There's injuries that are going to come with the sport, and if it doesn't happen to you, you're lucky. But if more than not, there's going to be an injury along the way, especially in a rough sport like that. And if you can know ahead of time the risks that you're going to be taking if you take those painkillers, then you can stop a lot of the disaster from happening that happened to me down the road.
You have a duty to your child to make sure you understand what you're handing out to him. Even if it does come from the doctor, you become the conduit that's giving him that substance, him or her that substance. So ask the questions, is this really necessary? Do you need 60 Vicodin, or can you get away with 3 of them and then take Motrin? Or can you get away with none of them?
To be honest with you, I think the most important thing is getting the athletes involved and the athletes speaking out. It goes from basketball to football to baseball to hockey. It's a situation and an environment that we all grew up with and gone through. But the one common thing is it's up to the families and the individual involved to make sure that they're aware of the complications that come with all of it.
Those kids who get an opioid are more likely to move down a path of chronic use. And so I think it is important for parents to always consider how appropriate each prescription opioid pain medication is, and that can be a challenging place for parents to be questioning the physician that's caring for their child or the dentist that's caring for their child, but you certainly have to be your own advocate.
They're not going to probably ask questions, they're probably not going to push back, so they're going to do what they're told, which is written on the prescription, and I think that's another problem that we have, and that's why the parents have to really wrap and engage and let their children know it's okay to question the taking of pain medication and narcotics.
I wish I would have known when he was 16. I just wish I would have known. I would have changed it all, or at least tried to. Maybe the outcome wouldn't be I lost my son.